if we don't show up tomorrow, it is entirely possible we won't be able to cast a ballot again.
Well, I think it's ridiculous. You know, Oprah, I was on her last show, or one of her last shows, and they picked the biggest people and all of that, and made a big deal. And I'm disappointed. I think Oprah's become a major divider in our country, and I think, frankly, she should be ashamed of herself. And you know who else should be ashamed? Fox. Because I've seen Oprah on Fox about 50 times making the same statement, and I think it's a disgrace what Fox does, because everyone thinks Fox is so pro-Trump. They're not pro-Trump at all. They've put Oprah on all morning long. That's all I see is Oprah. And, I knew Oprah very well. She's been in Mar-a-Lago many times. Roger King had his funeral. That's the head of King World, which was Oprah's mentor. And Oprah chose the location. She said, Mar-a-Lago is the most beautiful place. Would it be possible to have Roger's funeral at Mar-a-Lago in the ballroom? We did it. The only time I've ever had a funeral there. And I think Oprah should be ashamed of herself to say that. She should be ashamed. She knows me. She wanted to run with me as the vice president. She was going to be the vice president. She wrote me a letter. It's in the book. And now she goes to make statements like that. She's a divider. And Barack Hussein Obama is a divider, too.
When Oprah expresses herself with such urgency, it undoubtedly signifies that something truly important is occupying her thoughts.
If we don't show up tomorrow, it is entirely possible that we will not have the opportunity to ever cast a ballot again.
Actually, I'm disappointed. I think Oprah's become a major divider in our country. And I think, frankly, she should be ashamed of herself. And you know who else should be ashamed? Fox. Because I've seen Oprah on Fox about 50 times making the same statement, and I think it's a disgrace what Fox does, because everyone thinks Fox is so pro-Trump. They're not pro-Trump at all. They've put Oprah on all morning long. That's all I see is Oprah.
Oprah has dedicated decades to inspiring millions around the globe. She has built an empire rooted in positivity, success, and the pursuit of living your best life. For countless people, she has always stood as a beacon of strength and a symbol of hope.
Has released a book where he's published letters that he's received over the years. One of your letters is front and center.
I heard about that.
Okay, back in 2000, you wrote him, "Too bad we're not running for office. What a team."
I think he'd written a book and said that he wanted me to be his running mate.
If he decided to run.
If he decided to run. And when I heard that this letter is now going to be a part of a book, I thought, oh, wasn't that nice of me to write a note? That's what I thought. Because I'm always like, oh, I should write a note. The person did this, or I should write a note. So I'm really happy that I wrote a note.
Yeah, it just shows you have good manners. But you're not thinking you and Donald Trump would be a team.
No.
You weren't thinking it.
I might have thought it back then. I might have thought it 23 years ago. Yes.
Are you thinking that today?
No, I'm not thinking.
Okay.
You want to?
For Oprah to reach this moment and speak out with such conviction reveals that
at stake in this election. And ultimately, the question before us is, what kind of country do we want to live in? And the beauty of a democracy, as long as we can hold on to it, the beauty of a democracy is each of us has the power. Each of us has the power to answer that question.
That's right. Everybody on this.
So what's the story? Oprah recently made a compelling plea. And this isn't just another celebrity advocating for a cause or delivering an inspiring message. No, this time, Oprah's words carried a sense of urgency, like an alarm ringing loudly.
To our country at the border with inflation, with that Afghanistan nightmare that was the most embarrassing day probably in the history of our country. The way they did that, getting out was fine, but you get out with dignity and strength. What they did was so bad. When you look at October 7th in Israel, it would have never happened. And you look at the Russian attack of Ukraine, would have never, ever happened, not even a thought of it. Think of it. Think of how different this world would have been. Think of how different this country would have been, our country, which is just going so bad. It's so bad. Millions and millions of people are pouring into our country, and they come from jails. They come from mental institutions and insane asylums. They're terrorists at a level that nobody's ever seen before, and they
passionately about the vital role every voice plays in shaping this country and the dangers we face if we don't use those voices thoughtfully. Her words felt like a powerful call to action, not just a casual reminder. something incredibly rare and impactful coming from her.
The deep divisions that linger among Americans nearly a year after the presidential election. In her debut last night as a 60-minute special contributor, Oprah Winfrey traveled to Michigan to moderate a heated focus group. In a portion you will see only on CBS This Morning, Winfrey spoke with one participant about debating freely, finding common ground, and securing the border.
The biggest thing that maybe we've started to lose in America, and what is the biggest danger to the republic, is we've lost the ability to debate freely. To sit down and have intense, passionate, rational debates. And you know what? People may have feelings hurt, and we may really not like each other when we're done. But when we stop having that ability, when we lose the ability to debate ideas, the republic is over.
Is there a way for us all to reach some kind of common ground where all sides can be heard and that is possible? And if we could do that at this table, why isn't it possible for Congress?
Well, the thing is, if Oprah, if I want to sell you a bushel of apples for $20 and you only want to pay me $10, it does me no good if I say, no, the price is $20 and I walk back to my truck, and it does you no good if you say, well, I'm only willing to pay $10. Right. At some point, we have to come together and figure out how we're going to get to $15 at some point.
12.
And that's oh, fair enough. And that's what bothers me about Congress is you've got people over here saying, no way ever, and you've got people saying, no way ever. When you have conversations with people, you take the hot button issues off the table. You look for the common ground. You look for the common denominator, and then you work from there.
How many workers?
The day after our tabletop talk, we visited fourth-generation farmer Jeff Vanderwerf at one of his orchards outside Grand Rapids.
What did you think of our discourse last night? What did you think of all that?
You know, I thought it was really good, really interesting discussion. Got to visit with a lot of people that I wouldn't normally interact with.
Let's pause and reflect on this for a moment. Oprah has been a prominent figure for decades, witnessing some of the most pivotal moments in American history. From the civil rights movement to seismic shifts in politics and the evolution of media's influence on society, she has seen it all and been a voice.
So it was eye-opening.
We were talking last night about whether or not your Congress gets you, whether or not the president gets you. Do you think most of America gets what it takes to do what you do out here every day?
Unfortunately, I believe the vast majority of Americans really have no clue what it takes to do a lot of what we do out here. I mean, everything you see behind us, all these apples are hand-picked. Every apple in the United States is hand harvested. There are no machines for this. So we depend on migrant labor, on skilled migrant labor to come in and do this. We have had, over the years, dozens of American, domestic American citizens show up and say, yeah, I'd like to pick apples. Most of them don't make it through a day.
So how are the immigration laws going to affect you being able to get workers to do this?
Personally, I think we probably ought to let more people into this country at some point. But we have to have a handle on who's coming in, when they're coming in, where they're coming from, all these things.
So if President Trump were here right now, what would you advise him about immigration?
I would advise the president to continue the path to securing the border, because we have to have a secure national border. I agree.
Does that mean building the wall?
I think it does mean building a wall, but it has to be a wall with, as he said during his campaign, I think it was a big, beautiful door in it, or something to that effect. We need immigrant workers to come into this country for a variety of skills and positions, and we allow them to come in and to fill jobs that we have here.
Boy, I really liked that interview, and I really thought Jeff gave a very important perspective about people who are doing hard work on the front lines of agriculture and other things that really know running a business, picking apples by hand. That perspective is incredibly important.
Yeah, he really did show sort of understanding both sides of a question and seeking common ground.
I thought it was interesting to see all the passion around the table last night watching it. And I like what Jeff also said, that we have to be able to have passionate, rational conversation in this country. And so many times we don't do that. It's just anger and you don't hear the other person.
Oprah has remained a symbol of hope, unity, and progress. However, in the aftermath of Donald Trump's election as the 47th president, she is now raising a concern that feels deeply genuine, a worry that perhaps we're not heading in the right direction.
I am here with 10 first-time voters for Philadelphia. So Phoenix, I hear you did research before voting.
I did. It was really important to me that the policies that Kamala Harris has proposed for women's reproductive rights and education equality are what led me to cast my ballot for her.
Fantastic. And Eddie, I heard you stood in line because
honestly, it was an honor as an African American to exercise my right to vote, which my ancestors fought so hard for. And as a professional soccer player for the Philadelphia Union, I know that God, He gave me the opportunity to be a leader in this platform to encourage my peers and all of you out here to stand for what's right. Go Kamala.
And Sophia, you haven't voted yet, but you're getting up at what time tomorrow to go vote?
7 a.m.
7 a.m. when it's open, okay?
And my family's from Puerto Rico, so voting.
Puerto Rico!
So voting this election just means so much to me, and I plan to become a future OBGYN, and I'm so excited to vote for Kamala Harris to ensure my future patients' freedom.
That's fantastic. We need more female OBGYNs, and so all of you are voting tomorrow morning, getting up early, voting tomorrow morning. Thank you for exercising your freedom of expression and your power as citizens of this country. How many first-time voters? Raise your hand, first-time voters. Beautiful to see you. Thank you all for coming here tonight.
Through it all, Oprah has remained a symbol of hope, unity, and progress.
But now, in the wake of Donald Trump's election as the 46th voice, now let's consider the immense influence Oprah holds. She's not just a celebrity, she's a household name, someone who has earned the trust of millions. For her to speak out with such urgency is a powerful wake-up call. It's as if she's warning us that if we don't act now, if we don't raise our voices,
all the people who will be voting tomorrow, those of you who have not voted, thank you so much. On January 20th, 1961, President John F. Kennedy issued a challenge. He said, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Well, I'm here to tell you that what you can do for your country, what you can do for democracy here, and what you can do for the spirit of John Lewis and all the others who dared to walk across that bridge in Selma and fight for justice for us all. What you can do for every pregnant young woman who has died because she was not eligible to receive the emergency medical care she desperately needed because of an abortion ban. What you can do for yourself and what you can do for everyone and everything you cherish is vote. And if you are watching or hearing me right now and you haven't already, you have got to vote. And listen, I know that some of you are feeling burnt out and bruised and maybe inconsequential. Nothing could be further from the truth. Every single vote, every one is going to matter. That's why I've come to Philadelphia tonight. And yesterday I was all the way across the country and I was hiking on a Sunday afternoon and I met a woman named Angela who told me that she was going to sit this one out. Now, I know she was immediately sorry she told me that because I would not let up. So I said, sit this one out. We don't get to sit this one out. If we don't show up tomorrow, it is entirely possible that we will not have the opportunity to ever cast a ballot again. And let me be very clear. If you do not make sure...
So, what's driving Oprah's concern? Why is she sounding the alarm? Well, the recent election results, particularly Trump's victory, seem to have marked a turning point for her. Oprah sees the growing divide in the country, and she's deeply worried.
That is a mistake. Deciding not to decide, that is most definitely a vote to let other people control your future. Now, we all know what we're voting against. So I want to end by reminding you about a few things that we're voting for. We are voting to defend and protect the Constitution of the United States. We are voting for values. We are voting for values and integrity. We are voting for the right to choose what happens to our own bodies. We are voting to save ourselves from this precipice of danger where we now stand. All the anxiety and the fear you're feeling that because you sense the danger, and you change that with your vote. We are voting for healing over hate. Now, I believe in this promise of America. America has been the greatest country in the world for me. I believe that if you and I and the voters you see on this stage show up for our country tomorrow, if we answer that call that President Kennedy made more than 6 decades ago, then we have the power to choose a leader who will see us. She sees us, and she will do her mighty best to serve all of us. I believe we can do that, and I know she can do that. Yes, she can. Yes, she can. Yes, she can. And to say it and sing it and drive that message home, put your hands together for Will I Am.
Oprah's message went beyond political power. It was about the soul of America, about the very essence that binds the nation together.
Trump has taken aim at Oprah Winfrey online after she live-streamed an interview with Kamala Harris. The former president ranted about how he believed Harris was destroying America and how it wasn't the real Oprah. He also claimed Oprah looked embarrassed, but he did concede Oprah had him and his family on her show back in February.
Are showing a statistical deadlock, making the outcome of the 2024 presidential election unpredictable, especially in key battlegrounds like Pennsylvania.
Vice President Kamala Harris began her final campaign pitch to voters, deliberately choosing the Philadelphia Museum of Art, with its iconic Rocky steps from the 1976 film behind her.
And here at these famous steps, a tribute to those who start as the underdog and climb to victory.
Harris believes she started her campaign the same way. She goes into Election Day with a narrow lead in 4 national polls over her Republican rival, Donald Trump.
This could be one of the closest races in history.
But 3 other national polls show a statistical tie. That makes the outcome of the 2024 presidential election unpredictable, especially in battleground Pennsylvania.
We need everyone to vote in Pennsylvania, and you will decide the outcome of this election, Pennsylvania.
Harris spent Monday crisscrossing the state, making 4 stops. Over the weekend, her campaign knocked on the doors of 1.3 million homes to ensure Pennsylvania residents recognize the importance of their vote.
All the anxiety and the fear you're feeling that because you sense the danger, and you change that with your vote.
Harris told her supporters her campaign's been fighting for what she believes the country needs and what she hopes to deliver as its next president.
And you will decide the outcome of this election, Pennsylvania.
But voters may not know the outcome of the U.S. election right away. Millions of mail-in ballots from states like Pennsylvania can't be counted until the morning of Election Day. That means election results may not be known for hours, days, or even weeks. Kimberly Helkett, Al Jazeera, Philadelphia.
Trump recently fired back at Oprah's concerns, only intensifying the situation. He didn't hold back. He accused her of being one of the nation's biggest divisive forces, according to Trump.
Last show or one of her last shows, and they picked the biggest people and all of that, and made a big deal. And I'm disappointed. I think Oprah's become a major divider in our country, and I think, frankly, she should be ashamed of herself. And I knew Oprah very well. She's been in Mar-a-Lago many times. Roger King had his funeral. That's the head of King World, which was Oprah's mentor. And Oprah chose the location. She said, Mar-a-Lago's the most beautiful place. Would it be possible to have Roger's funeral at Mar-a-Lago in the ballroom? We did it. The only time I've ever had a funeral there. And I think Oprah should be ashamed of herself to say that. She should be ashamed. She knows me. She wanted to run with me as the vice president. She was going to be the vice president. She wrote me a letter. It's in the book. And now she goes and makes statements like that. She's a divide.
Now is Newsweek's senior editor-at-large and Article 3 Project Senior Counsel Josh Hammer. Josh, it's election day, and in the final hours, we've had an appearance from Oprah Winfrey, and she has turned up the hysteria and hyperbole to new levels.
If we don't show up tomorrow, it is entirely possible that we will not have the opportunity to ever cast a ballot again.
Josh, is Donald Trump going to ban elections if he wins?
You know, the left reader right now, as we approach the final hours of this most monumental of elections, they have a certain cognitive dissonance. You know, there are two things that are kind of jarring against one another. On the one hand, they continue to paint Donald Trump as a unique historical threat. He's a fascist. He's a Nazi. He's a Hitlerite. Oprah Winfrey now fear-mongering, saying that you're not going to have an ability to vote again. On the other hand, don't you think Jeff Bezos could have been bothered to have his Washington Post endorse the other candidate if Donald Trump were actually an existential threat to American democracy, or the Los Angeles Times for that matter, or USA Today? I mean, this thing just kind of doesn't make sense looking at it in even the most superficial and cursory of ways. Look, the thing about Donald Trump is no matter what you think about what he says on Truth Social or what joke he makes at a given rally, by the way, he is a very funny guy. I was watching his closing rally in Grand Rapids, Michigan last night. I still am here 8 years later just continually laughing at the man's just good sense of humor on the campaign trail. But no matter what you might think of him, the reality is, Rita, this man was president for 4 years. He therefore has a track record. We literally saw what happened in office. Was voting abolished? No, obviously not. So it's just stupid last gasp desperation from Oprah Winfrey is all this is.
That's it. I remember last time, before his first term, so not even last time, they were saying he was going to crash the stock market, he was going to start World War III. All these horrific things were going to happen, and 4 years, and none of that happened. There were no new wars, and the economy was doing pretty damn well.
Oprah has shifted from being a positive influence to someone who's actively contributing to the divide.
This sounds like political presidential talk to me, and I know people have talked to you about whether or not you want to run. Would you ever?
Probably not, but I do get tired of seeing the country ripped
Why
off.
would you not?
I just don't think I really have the inclination to do it. I love what I'm doing. I really like it.
Also, it doesn't pay as well.
Yeah, it doesn't.
So I want all the girls watching here and now to know that a new day is on the horizon.
Do you have a vice presidential candidate in mind?
Well, I really haven't gotten quite there yet.
It's just
Oprah. I love Oprah. Oprah would always be my first choice.
And I think we would be a very formidable team.
You told Larry King that you'd consider Oprah for vice president.
I like Oprah. What can I tell you?
She's still on your short list?
No, she's great. She's talented. She's a friend of mine. She's a good person. And I'd love to have Oprah. I think would win easily, actually. You know, George Stephanopoulos, who's actually a really nice guy, he asked me that question, and everybody thought he was kidding when he said it, and I was kidding. And everyone says, oh, he wants Oprah to be. Number one, it wouldn't be for Oprah, but I do like her a lot.
Has he contacted you?
Have not gotten the call.
You've not. If he did make the call, would you take the call?
I would say, Donald, I'm with her.
Oprah Winfrey!
I am here with 10 first-time voters for Philadelphia. So Phoenix, I hear you did research before voting.
I did. It was really important to me that the policies that Kamala Harris has proposed for women's reproductive rights and education equality are what led me to cast my ballot for her.
Fantastic. And Eddie, I heard you stood in line because
honestly, it was an honor as an African American to exercise my right to vote, which my ancestors fought so hard for. And as a professional soccer player for the Philadelphia Union, I know that God, he gave me the opportunity to be a leader in this platform to encourage my peers and all of you out here to stand for what's right. Go Kamala.
And Sophia, you haven't voted yet, but you're getting up at what time tomorrow to go vote?
7 a.m.
7 a.m. when it's open, okay?
And my family's from Puerto Rico, so voting.
Puerto Rico!
So voting this election just means so much to me, and I plan to become a future OBGYN, and I'm so excited to vote for Kamala Harris to ensure my future patients' freedom.
That's fantastic. We need more female OBGYNs, and so all of you are voting tomorrow morning, getting up early, voting tomorrow morning. Thank you for exercising your freedom of expression and your power as citizens of this country. How many first-time voters?
He even went so far as to say that Oprah should be ashamed of herself for the role she's playing in all of this.
Raise your hand, first-time voters. Beautiful to see you. Thank you all for coming here tonight and representing all the people who will be voting tomorrow. Those of you who have not voted, thank you so much. You know, on January 20th, 1961, President John F. Kennedy issued a challenge. He said, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Well, I'm here to tell you that what you can do for your country, what you can do for democracy here, and what you can do for the spirit of John Lewis and all the others who dared to walk across that bridge in Selma and fight for justice for us all. What you can do for every pregnant young woman who has died because she was not eligible to receive the emergency medical care she desperately needed because of an abortion ban. What you can do for yourself and what you can do for everyone and everything you cherish is vote. And if you are watching or hearing me right now and you haven't already, you have got to vote. And listen, I know that some of you are feeling burnt out and bruised and maybe inconsequential. Nothing could be further from the truth. Every single vote, every one is going to matter. That's why I've come to Philadelphia tonight. And yesterday, I was all the way across the country, and I was hiking on a Sunday afternoon, and I met a woman named Angela, who told me that she was going to sit this one out. Now, I know she was immediately sorry she told me that, because I would not let up. So I said, sit this one out. We don't get to sit this one out. If we don't show up tomorrow, it is entirely possible that we will not have the opportunity to ever cast a ballot again.
He even went so far as to say that Oprah should be ashamed of herself for the role she's playing in all of this.
For us now, we had you, we had the Obamas in the White House, so even on a bad day, you had a North Star, you had some hope. And then it was like the universe just said, psych, and threw us in the toilet and closed the lid, and now we're just stuck in this crazy situation.
We have each other. We have each other.
Tell me about that.
And this is the thing. I think I have to just say,
please say,
everybody is feeding yourself on the hysteria and the negativity. You gotta stay in the light. But one of the reasons why I was so excited is about A Wrinkle in Time, because the message is that the darkness is spreading so fast these days. You must become a warrior of the light. And the reason that's so meaningful to me is because that's how I've led my whole life. And every moment in that film, I just felt like, I'm just saying what I normally say.
It's true.
and for these times, the darkness is there to show you your light. Look at what has happened. So if you put the focus on, look at what happened with the darkness that showed up in Parkland, and the darkness that showed up on the streets of Ferguson, and the darkness that showed up in many homes in Chicago with shootings and senseless murders. It brings out the best in people. It brings out the best. And so that's what it's there. We live on a planet where there is darkness and light. You know, one of the things, I am not running for office. So I'm not letting you go there.
But if I were running for office, and I will say to whoever is going to run for office, do not give your energy to the other side. Do not spend all your time talking about your opponents. Do not give your energy to that which you really don't believe in. Do not spend an ounce of your time on that.
Well, help us though. Listen,
so don't spend your time on that.
Preach. You said I was preaching. You preaching. I love it. And that's what we need. But let me just push back for a second because, I got my love.
He even went so far as to say that Oprah should be ashamed of herself for the role she's playing.
Not be what we're fighting. You know what they tell me? They tell me, shut up, Van, because we got bigots out here, we got Nazis out here, we're getting bullied. We're tired of going high. We want to go low and kick them into private parts. So
there will be some people who do that, but you will not eventually win.
Tell me why.
And you know who knew that?
Who?
The civil rights workers and leaders. Those people, there was a strategy to, that's why I said to these young people from Parkland, you can't just go out there and march. There's a strategy to the marching. There's an intention. There has to be a very clear intention behind what you're doing and why you're doing it. So by the time Rosa Parks sat down on that bus, they had been planning that for a very long time. That had been coming for a long time. Everybody talks about it. Yeah, everybody talks about it. Oh, that particular day, Rosa just said, my feet were tired. That is not true. That was a strategic thing that happened there. And so there hasn't been a darker time, I believe, for our people other than slavery than what was going on in the civil rights movement. And the young people, like the John Lewises of the world, said, no more, enough, find another way.
But help me with this.
Well, let me help you. It's law. It's law. You and I have talked about this.
Yes.
We've had long conversations about it.
Yes.
What I deeply believe is not that do unto others as you would have them do unto you. What you do is already done. That moment in The Color Purple where she says, everything you ever tried to do to me, where Whoopi says that, Celie, everything you even try to do to me, already done to you. So the law, the third law of motion in physics says that what you're putting out is coming back all the time, regardless of whether you know it or acknowledge it or not. So you got to stay as a warrior of the light.
Listen, I believe it. How? I want to get practical with you. I want to get practical. Somebody's gonna say, "Well, she can say that because she's a gazillionaire." But
yeah.
But
the way I got to be a gazillionaire.
Talk.
Because this is what I have understood for a long time.
Every day, this is what I'm going to tell you my life, and you tell me how to fix it. Every day I wake up in the morning. Listen, I need help. I wake up in the morning, I'm trying to be a warrior of the light, and I reach for my cell phone, and I look at it, and I just start freaking out, and I freak out the whole day. What do you do every day? What are your rituals?
So I wake up in the morning.
What you do?
And the first thing I say is thank you.
Yes.
That's my first thing. Even before I'm awake, even before my eyes are really fully open, I say, thank you. I can feel the gratitude, like, ooh, I'm still here. I'm in a body. Thank you so much. I thank you for that.
Gratitude.
And then I go through the letting the dogs out, the whole, brushing your teeth and all that stuff. And then I have either silence or prayer or something that acknowledges that I'm still here. I do not reach for that phone first. That's your problem.
That's my problem.
That's your problem.
That's good.
I understand. Yeah. I understand, but you're in the business and you want to know what's happened. Want to know what's happened? What am I going to have to respond to today?
I know. I got to get my sound bite.
Let me get in it.
Well, I love what you're saying, and it's.
But you don't believe it.
No, listen. I believe.
You don't believe it because you think you can fight it head on. You cannot meet it head on and fight it. You have to transcend it.
Transcend it.
You have to.
Yeah. Listen, I feel like when you've been going out now, you've been talking to people. You are not only one of the best communicators in the world. Part of that is because you're one of the best listeners in the world. When you go out with the 60 Minutes and you're talking to people, what are you hearing now from folks? In other words, I think we're so divided. We're all in our own little bubbles. We're building bubbles and not bridges. You're bridging. What are you hearing?
Well, you know what actually moved me so deeply was one of the first stories I